bro. I've been high, I've been low. I done pictured, been whole. I done prayed and been prayed on. I fell off and I stayed on.
Well, this is episode 44 of Who Thought We'd Be Here.
Episode 44.
And we're in a space that will be the recording space, probably.
Add another location to our list.
Yes. This one is going to be a lot more permanent.
More frequent. Like. Yeah, this feels great. Mm-hmm.
The quality of the podcast is just like going up every week after week.
Mm-hmm.
Like the camera here now. People haven't even seen an episode with the camera yet.
Yeah, and
we're about to have another camera come.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like, you know,
mm-hmm.
now we have a space that feels like
this feels right for sure. This is nice. Yeah. And like we won't be as gifted with the light today. Mm-hmm. You're getting great light.
Yeah.
But like when we have like we didn't know that we were going to do this in here today. So
yeah, we'll have the lighting with us next week.
Exactly.
And then it's just going to be on another level.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, and then I'm really excited because then it's just like the more you do something, we've been all over the place. The more you do something in the same, like we really just figured out like how to light my apartment well.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, but if you do 5, 10, 15 episodes in the same space.
Yeah.
For me, like
it definitely makes it easier for you.
Yeah, and it makes it easier for us to set up. I know like roughly where my settings need to be at and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, we're moving right now.
See?
It's like we have a director.
Maybe. Creative director.
You know.
I think it always feels right when we record, like you and I kind of drop into that space. But we did talk about how it's like having like basically a dedicated space that just exists as like, because then it's like hard to feel like it's a real job if it's like, you know, you and I are walking to my living room and then is that, you know, and it's great. It works out. We kind of, you can't dwell on what you don't have, but also it feels good to like have something that is like, this comes first in terms of how we go forward with that.
Mm-hmm.
If that made sense.
Kind of.
Kind of, right?
Yeah, I know what you were going for.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But welcome to the inner workings of my mind.
Yeah.
It's crazy when I set this up like this. This was always the goal.
This is at the forefront, yeah.
Yeah. That this could just be the space that we use this for.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And maybe that was like, because I think you were there a little bit before, or maybe a lot before I was, in terms of like taking the next level with this.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was figuring out my own personal problems, you were making us the studio that we would need.
Yep.
9 months later.
Now we have it.
now
it's aesthetically pleasing.
And now it is aesthetically pleasing. We always talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that it just like there's a nice backdrop behind us for once. You know what I mean?
Full circle, man. I got the shirt on from
the very first
the OG fans know.
Yeah, I'm wearing the hat.
Are you?
I'm actually wearing that
hat.
Yeah,
actually that, because I can picture that episode.
Yeah.
So like the other ones are like I can always put like together if it's guests, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of them blend together.
The first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the same location, just a different spot.
Yeah, we're definitely in different places in our lives.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
But
that's what this thing's all about, though.
And I think it creates hope for what this is going to look like moving forward and even further into the future, you know? And
it's like, it's almost, I mean, we talked about, and I'm sure we will go through with it in terms of doing like a vision board for the podcast. Mm-hmm. But this room feels like...
There's affirmations everywhere, baby.
Yeah, there's affirmations everywhere, yeah.
It very much fits where we're at right now, I would think.
Yeah, I like it.
You know what? It's nice to be surrounded by the knowledge of all these books. I feel like that's adding to the environment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that we have aligned thoughts with that are behind us, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I like that. Yeah, but like...
While we're talking about books, though, you want to do our book swap?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
So I just finished The Book of Secrets by Deepak Chopra. Fantastic book. I'd say 9.7 out of 10. Incredible book.
Huh.
We're catching this live in the flesh.
Yeah. I would like to give you
This is the first live book club.
I would love to give you another Deepak Chopra book, but I don't want to bore you with him too much right now. And I also don't have...
It's not boring. I don't think he's boring. But
I want to keep it different.
Like how I gave you something that was completely...
I think I've pulled this out before, but I think it's time that I give you this. This is the original.
Oh, the original?
The original Tao Te Ching. This isn't the Wayne Dyer one that I'm always reading.
Yeah.
But
his is like the translated?
His is a translation, and it also has like, he writes summaries or essays, short essays to each lesson. There's 81 verses, so they're all a little bit different. Some of them, thinking of the time that this was written, was like ancient China. Lao Tzu is like, it means old man. And it was also like warring times. So some of the things that are in here, there's a couple verses that are going to lean more toward like how you would govern a nation or go about like warfare, like, and how to do it peacefully. Like, instead of resulting in war, like only going to there when you absolutely direly needed to, like otherwise no need for violence. But I mean, there's a little intro, so you can learn a little bit more about it and where it comes from at the beginning. And then it's the 81 verses for you to interpret how you will. Maybe read one every morning for a little while and just think on it. That's what I do with the Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life book. And then somewhere along the line, I'll toss you one of those. And then you can start reading that.
Whew. As is tradition, I'm going to have to slide through here and pick a page. Okay. Verse 9, to hold until full is not as good as stopping. To hold until full is not as good as stopping. An over-sharpened sword cannot last long. A room filled with gold and jewels cannot be protected. Boasting of wealth and virtue brings your demise. After finishing the work, withdraw. This is the way of heaven.
It's kind of similar to what we talked about on the way over here in the car.
Yeah, about not forcing.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that it even applies to like people in your life.
Yeah.
That way, it's just like that has run its course, or whatever it may be. It can be in friendships, relationships, anything, business, whatever, a job.
Yeah, I mean, that actually kind of ties directly into what we were talking about outside before we started recording. Like, I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah.
Wow. Does come full circle.
It always is like, and that's like the coincidences. We always talk about Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you start noticing those things, it's like, oh, don't, that's the universe telling you that you're going in the right direction. And I feel like, are things perfect in life? No. But I also feel like I notice enough of that in my life now that tells me that I'm trending in the right spot.
Yeah. The signs start to come.
And mainly having to do with this, but yeah.
But I mean, putting in the effort here, I just feel like this is an elevated episode. And it's crazy because this won't even be out until probably December.
Yeah.
We're that far ahead right now.
Yeah.
We should start dating the episodes because we're kind of getting that far ahead.
Yeah.
Today is October 30th, the day before Halloween.
Yeah. And that's probably, it'll be like the last week of November.
Yeah. Early December.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh no! It'll be Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
it'll be around Thanksgiving.
But that's nice and that's exciting.
So if you're listening to this around Thanksgiving, which you will be, be grateful for your family.
Yeah,
you know,
don't yell at your uncle.
Yeah,
he's just not enlightened yet.
Oh, I can't wait to say Merry Christmas to you guys on November 7th.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah, and that we talked about how that would make us like feel like more professional. And it's kind of just, you think that I don't know, I'll just use this unit of measurement. You think you're miles away from like the next step, and it's always like closer than you thought. You know, because I think in both of our heads we thought that no, the studio is going to be something that like somebody comes to us and says, I have something that you can use and I can help you. Or that, and that it has that feeling of we created this by just talking about it. Yeah. And not like relying upon, and I think that's just big personally for me, is just not waiting on that like sign from the universe. Like you are the sign of the universe that it's like, if you feel like it is time to make a change and do something next, that is the sign. The sign is not like the truck that drives by that has the the message that you need to hear on it. Sometimes it is. I'm not discrediting coincidence at all, but sometimes it's just that you feel like it needs to.
1-800 called Bruce.
Yeah.
From Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
When the sign goes past Jennifer Aniston on the truck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah, but I know what you mean, to just like find it, like just to know intuitively and to trust your intuition and be like, this is it. And I can do this on my own. We can do this on our own. Like whatever it might be, like the only thing stopping you is resistance. We keep coming back to that. That's
always, yeah.
See, that book you gave me, like I've read a lot of books that have like changed the way that I thought.
I think that's the first one I gave you that really.
Yeah, no, that one hit home right away.
Place, yeah. Mm-hmm. And not all of them are going to be like that, you know. Some of them are just going to be useful.
Yeah.
But others, I think, are just like divine timing.
Mm-hmm. And it's like we were talking about how I'm aware that I say that a lot when we podcast. We were talking about. I start a lot of conversations like that. Mm-hmm. But
I notice, like, I know like, all my speaking habits now.
Yeah.
Just sitting there and watching those episodes, they'd be like, stop pausing while you're saying things. You know, like, and I noticed that too. And that's, I think, a good thing to talk about. I think about this all the time. And now we've been doing this long enough, and I notice that I do this. And I have to keep it in mind all the time when I'm editing, when we're shooting, all sorts of stuff. Whenever we're doing anything like this, is that like I'm way harder on myself about like I'll sit there and watch the video of us, and I'll be so patient while you're saying something. And you might be figuring out what it is or doing whatever, because we have those moments. And I'm just like fine with it. But then like I watch myself do it, and I take like one pause while I'm speaking, and I'm like, what the fuck is your problem?
Yeah.
You know, and I have to, and I notice it too when we're setting up the camera angles and things like that. And I'm like, it's like I'm more content with your angle always before mine, because I'm judging myself. I'm not judging the way the camera's set up.
No, I feel you. I understand. When we're editing and I listen to myself talk all the time, I'm never thinking anything about you. But when I'm looking at myself,
I'm like, you look great. You're doing a great job, Steve. Yeah. Like, keep up the good work.
When I'm looking at myself, I'm like, God, man, your voice is the fucking worst. But I think that's all the time too, bro. That's resistance, and it's self-sabotage. And the reason that it comes up is because we really care about this. And it's like us, it's that voice in your head that's trying to get you to stop editing or stop making a clip and just...
Or stop doing this in general.
Just fold it in, you know? Yeah. And it's building that wall against resistance. And I think this whole setting up the room like this is just another step in being like, we're further away from quitting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just pulling further and further away from it. And I feel like it's a testament to like the way I am about my life in general. Just the more I do something, and like the longer I go without drinking, the longer I go without smoking. And to me, it's just like, look at that number. Why would you ever want to go back? You know, you're so far away from being defeated. Like, there's no point in turning back now, you know, like anytime. And like, that's the conversation I try and have with myself sometimes when I'm like getting sabotagey. Like today, for example, running on the track. I don't know what it is about running on a track, but just going in those constant circles, like I was making good time. My pace was fine. I was getting a little bit winded, but it was because I was beating myself up in my head and not taking any time to worry about my breathing. I was just, you're not going anywhere. You're not even getting anything done. Like, this is a waste of time. You have so much stuff to be doing after this. Like, and it was just beating and beating and beating on me. And like, it's that thought of like, nah, I'm going to finish this though. Like, this sucks. And like, I'm not enjoying this. And like, I'm going to be very burnt out afterwards. And I'm not normally tired after I get done running. Normally I'm like, great, you did that. Like, more energy. Let's move on to the next task. But today I was like exhausted because I was just so rough on myself while I was running. But it's knowing that, okay, this is just resistance and it's a bitch today. You know, like, it's not, you're not going anywhere. You're not doing something that's unproductive. You might have other shit to do, but why are you hurrying around to it? Because you're missing the opportunity to like be here doing this and get a little bit better. And instead of giving in. And I think every time we do this podcast or I go for a run or anytime you do something that's productive for yourself, it's a way, if you just look back and you're like, instead of thinking about the past or thinking about the future and things you have to get done, just take a minute and be like, I'm crushing it right now. You know,
or this is
I'm
enough.
this far away from where I was when I started. Like,
but like being like, what I'm doing right now is enough. And like we talk about all the time, like, oh, if I'm doing something for my body, then my mind runs wild. And like you got into those traps, it's just like, just being content that you're doing enough. And I think that comes back to just like being hard on yourself. And I struggle with that. I know you struggle with that too.
Yeah, dude, I started as soon as I woke up this morning. I was having a rough one.
Yeah, and that's part of changing too, is learning to like be better, but no, it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, like it sucks, but like at the same time, like I know that this day is going to end and this too shall pass, and then tomorrow, like we wake up and we go right back after it. And you know what? Because I've been doing this for so long, I know that because I had a rough day today, I'm probably not going to have another one for a while. And it's just looking at it that way instead of being like, damn, you got your ass kicked yesterday and tomorrow's going to suck now too. It's like today might have sucked in the morning and it might not have gone the way I wanted it to and things were out of what seemed like alignment for me, but apparently they weren't because we sat down and we started the podcast today and we were like, yo, let's just make this the room. And like we had a good productive idea and now this conversation's coming from it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, you got to look at that stuff and not the fuck, like,
yeah, it's really just glass half empty or glass half full, where it's just like you're instead of dwelling on what you didn't do today, it's dwelling on what you did do, and like where did you and you got to be honest with yourself. Like I'm perfectly okay with making the sacrifice that I'm not going to go to the gym today because I want to devote what we're doing here to that. But then it's just like, well, what about the days where you're doing that to stay in bed or to do it out, and you have, and it's not that there's anything wrong with resting or relaxing, but it's just cultivating that awareness of like what's really there versus like, I don't want to go do this.
Yeah. Like
I'm afraid of what's going to happen when I go do that.
Like I don't take a lot of days off, but like, because I know the difference between needing a day off and what's just my mind being like, you ain't got it today. And I think Whoop is a big help with that because I look at my HRV and if my HRV is like really high, like, and I'm in my head, I'm like, nah, I know my body can handle this today. Like, and I haven't had very many days where it's low and I know that I'm not like capable of taking on stress. Even like in my red recovery days, like my HRV is still high. So like I lean on that.
I still look at those things and like sometimes like I wake up and maybe it feels like I didn't, or maybe it looks like I didn't sleep that well, but sometimes I feel great. So it's kind of like both, where I'm like, this doesn't have to be like, it can be like a encouragement, but it doesn't have to be a discouragement. Yeah. That if I feel great and I woke up today feeling like I should go work out or go do something, then I'm going to go do that. But then on those days where your mind is overpowering your body, you can say like, nah, you slept real good last night, you're feeling great, you're not sick, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's important to find that
old bitch self-doubt.
It's a good that should definitely be one of the
you want
episode
to swing
titles.
Into topic number 2
that old bitch self-doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we were having some very, very productive conversations today, and that's something that I lean on, like, when I have a rough day like that, is, like, what else happened? Not just thinking about how poorly the morning went or something in my routine or not living up to, like, I don't know that it's a I guess it's a standard or a moral, like,
expectation.
Yeah, exactly. For myself. And, like, because maybe running 3 miles a day is hard for somebody else. It's not hard for me, not at this point. But like it was at one point, and I've built myself up to here. So like now this is my expectation. Like I don't need to run a mile a day anymore. I need to be running 3 or 5. Like, and it's having awareness of just being like, you've now built these, and knowing that if you fall short of it, it's self-doubt's going to creep in, but don't look at just that segment of the day. Look at the day in total. because like the great effects of today have definitely outweighed like the few things that went wrong this morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I forget who said it. I'm sure it's been said a million times on podcasts and wherever, which is that like, did you have a bad day, or did you have like a half an hour that
sucked?
That sucked, and then you let that carry over into everything.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard Jay Shetty say that
So
before.
yeah, exactly. A lot of people have said that before, but it's a good way. You know, I mean, bad days are tough. We've never sat on here and been like, just be positive.
Yeah.
But we've also never said that like nobody's gonna make you happy but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of feel like I'm at a place now where those feelings haven't gone away, but I'm aware that they're there, and it makes it that much more impressive, I think, to myself when I'm able to notice that they're there and then say, fuck it, no. Like the other day when I was supposed to go film something for a friend, and I just got this new camera and I'm really excited about it. And it is a great camera. It's nice. But I really didn't think it through as much as I thought. And then of course the day where I'm supposed to go shoot, I'm realizing that what I want to do with this thing is not
what it's capable.
It's not what it's capable. It's not what I want it to be able to. And it's also like, today's technology has come a long way, and we see that with iPhones. So like, imagine that with cameras, and then it would be frustrating for me to use this, you know, and having that feeling of letting that creep in. That's just like, you couldn't even buy the right camera that you needed. What business do you think you have doing this? And just like noticing that, and the way I was like talking to myself, and so dumb, you know, and but then being able to like years ago, that part of me would like collapse, and I would have called Armando and said, yeah, I'm just not feeling it today too well, bro, or like, you know, whatever it is, to come up with something. That's what the old me would have done. But I was just like, nah, I'm not letting that part of me win. And did the day go amazing? I had fun. I had a blast. Was the video I got perfect? Probably not. Like, not even close. But that's not really the point. For me, it was like, this isn't about going there and getting your perfect video or whatever it is that you're dwelling on. This is about just going there and doing this. And I had to take myself out of it and be like, you're doing this for somebody else. You know, you're and just kind of reminding yourself that the standards that you have for yourself are not the same. Like, maybe you went into that day thinking that at the end of the day, you were going to feel good about yourself because you got all this amazing footage. But really it was about, you're going to feel amazing today because you went out and did that despite the self-doubt that you were talking to yourself about. It wasn't necessarily about, it was about showing up. It wasn't about, and I think that that's what most things are about. You can only show up and do the best thing that you can. For me, that was enough of victory. And just like being like, you've told yourself, especially when it comes to things like that, in terms of filming and following that passion, that resistance is so loud. It's so loud for me. And that I kind of can't get anywhere unless I acknowledge that it's there and then still kind of jump over that fence.
I think it's a lot of being conscious of what is self-doubt and what is that voice compared to what's not, what is just like constructive criticism, you know? And like, I think following your intuition plays a big part into being able to combat resistance. Like, you have to follow what feels right to you. And sometimes it takes a long time or a while to figure out. Like, we were talking about, just like relationships, and knowing like in any sort of relationship, like, what is this serving me in any way that is positive, or am I just, if I'm noticing the negatives of this relationship and of like this friendship, then is it one that I really want to align with? Because you have the awareness now to be like, I know where my morals are, and I know like what I like to be around, you know, and that kind of energy. So like, it's being able to intuitively know, like, okay, you should take a step back from this, or you should lean into this, and like, this is resistance and you need to go toward it, and like, this is resistance in another way because you need to get away from it. But it's like what we talked about, just when you're drawing those lines, like, well, he's always does this, like, that I really appreciate. Is that really why you enjoy this friendship, or is it just because, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keep those things in mind, because connection is important, you know, like it's very important, but it's also very hard to,
I think in the sense it's important to have connections. It's also very, very important, like we were talking about, to have connections that are meaningful and to be able to identify what's a meaningful relationship or friendship with somebody as opposed to what isn't. And that can be difficult sometimes, but you have to look at it in the sense of like, I'm changing and I'm growing, and this is where I see my future and the path that I'm directed down. And like, do I see this person as a part of that? And also, like, because you can't change people. You can, you know what I mean? Like, you can give them a push, but at the end of the day, everybody's got to do their own thing. And sometimes when you grow, you're going to grow apart. You know?
And I think that a lot of times, like, especially with the stage that you and I are at, where just alcohol is a big part of, like, not even just your friendships, but just kind of like your life in general. And I don't think you realize that until you're out of that. And then kind of, it's like, what do you, I think it's a very simple question, but it's kind of difficult to answer as well when you're like, I don't know what to keep from that life and what to let go of. I think that that's hard too, is when you want to help people and you want to be there for people, but kind of just looking at where the relationship is. And it's hard. It's really hard to make that decision, to be like, I don't think that this is good for you or me or whoever. But I don't know, like, you can't hang on to everything. Right? Like, for me and you to get to here, we had to let go of each other, you know? And this friendship certainly wouldn't be what it is now if we hadn't let go of it when it was. And I think it's just detaching from things, but I think it's also just like you miss stuff in just figuring out how to find that feeling from somewhere else. And that can be really scary. Alcohol was a big part of you and I finding connection with people all the time, you know? And then how do you recreate that and have that feeling in a healthier way? Yeah.
I think it's, like I said, when I moved away, I was at a point where I was kind of like, I could tell that these relationships weren't like benefiting me. Like, there was no mutual, it wasn't like an actual, I don't know how to put this.
That's okay.
It's just like, it wasn't a relationship where either person really benefited. Like, it was just kind of like a masquerade of like, should we even be friends? Like, are we friends? Like, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of the times you only get to that point because you're maturing and you're growing, and you look back and you be like, okay, like, that part of me that I don't want to be anymore, that I'm leaving behind, like, this is your only attachment to me. You know what I mean? Like, we only have this in common, and that's something that I'm leaving behind. And I had that problem because, like, a lot of my relationships were based off of drugs and alcohol, you know, and being in a bar. So you're around that, and those are the people you associate with. And when you start to cut that out of your life, you see very quickly, like, like, what is important to me isn't important to you. We kind of only had this that brought us together, and then we could find like mutual things to talk about. But like, do you feel fulfilled after having a conversation? Like, no. So, you know, like, you start to identify like, maybe I need to make some changes. Like, maybe these things aren't for me. And I think it's just because this is a very hard journey to go on, an inward one, like, where you're trying to learn about yourself, and like, there is a lot of self-doubt, and there's times where you don't know if it's intuition or if you're just afraid to lean into something, and it becomes conflict within yourself that then you're dwelling on. And it just leads to, when you do have that interaction with that person that you're on the fence about, it just makes it more and more clear every time that like, you guys aren't really aligned. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I have no hard feelings toward anybody, but you know, like sometimes you just grow apart. And there's plenty of people since the start of this podcast that I don't talk to at all anymore, you know? But that was just the nature of working in a restaurant.
Yeah. And I think that, and I kind of run into this problem in relationships too, where like when you ask yourself, like you and I are very lucky in terms of the friendship that we've built. But I think you could probably look at other ones or prior ones or whatever and say to yourself, like, if this is as good as it gets, then like we don't need to continue doing this. This is kind of just a facade. And I run into that in relationships too, you know, where you're like, are we like masking this with having a lot in common or a physical connection or whatever it might be, and then looking back at yourself and saying like, is this as good as it gets? Is this what it's supposed to be like? And not to say that like you should expect perfection, but you also kind of can't set the bar. It's a weird thing, but it's like you can't set the bar low for others in your life and then expect for yourself to like achieve everything you want. I don't know. And it's like I said, it's choosing that thing that's just like, yeah, maybe you keep like, don't like, maybe this person, like you enjoy their company, but I don't know. I'm struggling with how to talk about this too.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I think the fact that we're having this conversation and both of us seem a little bit tense about it is because we need to have this conversation. And it's just like, but I'm just where I'm at, like I'm trying to figure out who my real friends are, you know? And like, I have you that I know for sure. And I know I have Desiree. And then there's a group of people that are in my life that I'm like, I don't know what our real association is sometimes, because the way that I'm aligned and the way that I'm going, I feel like people are starting to come into my life. And maybe it's because I'm further along in sobriety than like I was cause it's very clear to me that me and you were at the same point that I was when I moved away, because I was having those thoughts in my head. And I think I didn't know who to talk to them about. I had mentioned it to you a couple times, but you also weren't at the same point I was, so it didn't really resonate. And now you get to this point, and it's like, you can look at me, and I'm still a year into this trying to figure out, like, where are there, like, maybe I should just have 3 friends. Like, because it's clearly working out very well for me when I stay to myself. I work on our relationship. I work on my relationship with Desiree, and I work on my relationship with my family. Those are the important ones to me, and they seem to be getting better and growing more fruitful every time that I just keep the energy there. And there's a bunch of people that know me because, like, from bartending, and we have friendships, and, like, there's some people that I still hang out with even though that I don't drink anymore, but I'm just learning more and more that I don't really care, you know, like I know what's important to me. So like, I don't need to have a bunch of friends or even have I'm cool just having like a couple core people, you know, and like, I've really narrowed it down over the last year. And I think I'm narrowing it down to like, there's only a few spots left, you know what I mean?
I kind of know what you mean. Yeah.
And I'm trying to focus the energy on that because I'm like, I think it's because I'm trying to step up my awareness again, like, because I realized that I had been lackadaisical with it and I had got to that place where I felt stagnant because whereas I was doing the work, I wasn't doing enough of the work or the right work. I had been doing what had gotten me to that point, and then I had to realize that there's more to this and there's another step to go. And just like, that has brought me to like, it's the first time I've been out of the friend group chat in like 8 years, because I was like, these are notifications that I don't need because it's just more noise and distractions. And even though I'm close with everybody in this group chat, like if they really need me, they can just text me. And like having the awareness to be like, that's okay. Like,
yeah. And it's ultimately you being okay with like being left out.
Yeah.
You know,
because like that's not what the driving force behind my life right now. Right. For me, it's working on myself and getting better so I can be better for the people that I need to be better for and for myself. And I can show up and make sure that I'm putting in the work to be where I want to be in 5 years.
Well, it shows, man.
Thank you.
And it's, I think, and you know that over the last like couple months, I've had a lot of like, I wouldn't say but figuring out things with my own family.
Yeah. No.
And eventually, one of the things I realized was that like I know, like you'll think of a certain person when I say this, but like think of the guy who like you always see at the bar or whoever, like at the place you hang out at, whatever it is. I'm like, I know that guy, or I've seen that guy or girl or whoever it is 4 times this week, and I haven't seen my mom in a month.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, I don't have time to go have dinner with my mom and my brother one night a week, or I don't have time to go get dinner with my dad and his girlfriend one night a week, or whatever it is. And it's not that you have to do it once a week, but I was just like, that makes no sense that I could sit here and be like, I don't have the time for this, when I know, like, quite frankly, it's like, I know this dumb fucking story this dude told me this week, but like, I don't know how my mom's doing at work, or I don't know how my brother's doing, you know, whatever it is, or I don't know how my dad's, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. And I had to look at myself and be like, where does that, and eventually like you're basically like replacing something, or you're filling a hole in your life with something that's, you feel empty because you're trying to fill that hole with connection from people who just happen to have like common interests or whatever it is. And then in that case, the common interest is alcohol, or whatever it might be for you in your life, you know, whatever that is. It could be something that's not a substance, wherever you get that kind of like false sense of fulfillment from. And I just have to look at myself and be like, what in the, like, I'd like to be able to like know what's going on. I know I have the power to put in that effort and find that and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I'm not texting you anymore, it's probably because I don't want to hang out with you.
I mean, I don't know. Like it's like a priorities thing.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? I heard this quote a really, really long time ago, because when I was like first getting sober, I used to always get those videos that are just like, you're going to be alone and it's okay. And it like never resonated with me, because I was like still like holding on to those relationships like that I would eventually shed, but was still holding on to. And it was just like, I saw this video of this guy being like, you just got to release people with love, man. Be like, we don't align anymore, but I love you and peace. And you don't got to say it to them. Like, you just say it to yourself, so you know that like you're moving on wholeheartedly, like because you're trying to be in a better place. And I think I've done that with the majority of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you and I, we talked about how like there's a struggle to find. It's really just within like yourself, feeling that need to like release somebody or something because you feel like you're better than it, versus it just being like it doesn't align anymore. And like I'm aware of the fact that it doesn't align and that there's just other work to be done. And that's really hard when it seems like the thing that could be given to you in that present moment feels really good and could like temporarily get rid of that tough feeling that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, I think it works for anything. You can kind of apply it. You can apply it to people and you can apply it to things. But ultimately, like what you're talking about is kind of like the relationship with alcohol.
How so?
Because it's like, in a way, you have to be grateful for that time that you spent with that if you're going to move forward.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you. We talked about that in the car. That's a very big part. You can't really move forward until you make peace with, like, okay, this is who I was and this happened, and, like, but we move on. Like,
and you can be grateful for something and also release it.
Yeah, you have to be grateful for the past so you can move on in the future, I think.
Be grateful that lesson was, like, you can't be mad that a lesson was taught to you in a way that you don't like.
What was the example that we used in the car? I feel like it was a good one.
I don't know.
It was when we were coming down Lake Street. We were about to turn, fucking come to the Ordinary Winter. God damn it.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was, but that was for us.
Yeah, that was for us only. Yeah, sometimes that's hard to...
You know what I was thinking about, though? And this is another add-on to, like, when you know it's time to move on and, like, from what benefits you and what doesn't. The people that we're talking about are never going to hear this or see this, because if they cared the way we thought they did, they would actually be watching this. And we have learned a long time ago that they're not behind on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of saying, like, are you like behind it or not.
I think in a friendship, though, you're supposed to show support for something. Or at least make an effort to, because that's part of it. Because I know I would do that for the same for you.
Yeah.
And when you don't see that in return, it's just like...
No, you're right.
Wow, we were only friends because we did blow together. Like.
Well, yeah, it's like you're not actively discouraging what we're doing, but like, I don't know. This is why it's a hard thing to talk about. But it's like, I know that with the people who are close to me, how much support I give them and what I bring to the table in terms of that. And then, yeah, that does... that does feel exhausting.
I don't think
time after time you're having to ask for that when it's like, I offer this to you as a friend, but I don't necessarily get this.
And
back.
I don't think it's like a self-righteous thing where we're like, I know I'm this kind of friend, so like I expect this in return. Like, there's plenty of people that I like am courteous and kind to every day, where I know like that I wouldn't get that back, but like that's not the point. The point is like, I'm trying to live a nice peaceful life. So I'm going to be peaceful with you. So hopefully you will be in return.
And I think that what you touched on earlier is also a good point, which is that you really cannot make room for, like, this podcast is heading in a direction where I guess I can't speak for you, but I think you would agree with me in that, like, we're going to be in touch with people who are going to help us be better people and level up. And I don't think that you can do both in terms of hang on to everything from your past and simultaneously kind of like step into the opportunities that might be coming. And I don't mean that just in the sense of this podcast, but I do think that that is part of it, where it's like, you can't really, it's kind of like, it's, you know, when a door closes, you got to open a window. There's got to be room. You know what I mean? You have to make the room. And if there's kind of no...
We have a house phone.
They can't hear that.
I didn't know we had a house phone.
I remember the house phone went off when we had the episode with Kilmer.
Oh, did it?
Remember that? In the beginning? You don't remember that?
That was so long ago. Shout out to John Kilmer.
Yeah. But that, like, you can't really make room for where you're going right now without mindfully putting some of the past to the side.
Yeah.
And it's just like giving up alcohol or drugs or whatever it is for you personally is like not going to solve it all. There's always like the next thing that's just like, now there's this to give up, you know? I think when you get to a point where that like you and I are at, not that we figured anything out, but that you're okay with that because it's like, I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Right now. There was a point where I said that to you.
It was the puzzle, is what I was, like, the analogy that I used in the car.
What was that?
When I was just like, there's people in your life, and like sometimes it's hard. Like, you think at the beginning of this, it's going to be hard all the time to like piece things together inside. But like, once you start to make those changes and like you start to work on those things about yourself and you put the puzzle piece in the right way, you realize that like, that resistance that you were feeling to work on that thing, like, it was only there because the feeling of joy on the other side is like just as big. because it's something that you care about. And like after a while you realize like I just got to keep doing the work on myself and figuring out how I tick, and then it all makes sense.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like is this as good as it gets, or is there room for this feeling to get bigger, and is there more room for growth? And sometimes you got to leave people behind, right? And that's and you and I have been at this for so long that it would like, I think it's very hard for most people to just grasp like how in touch we are with taking things personally, because you and I struggle with that, like between each other. That was you know what I mean? That was a hard thing. And I think we only say that like we release you with love because it's that feeling of like knowing that we were on the other side of that at certain points.
Yeah.
And that there's kind of no way that you can get to this point like without saying that like if I wouldn't be okay with somebody also saying that to me, like you and I are on different paths, and that's okay. Like if I can't be okay with somebody telling me that, then I can't tell that to somebody. And that's just the way it goes. But like we've done a lot of work to get past that like triggering, really taking things personally type of stuff.
Yeah, that's all the books.
It's hard.
Books.
It's hard. It's hard, and it's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because then you realize how much you take stuff about yourself personally too.
And that's the work, though. And it's one. I think when you become aware of those things that you take personally, like it's a lot easier to make the changes than it is when you're just like you're taking everything personally and you're blaming everybody else for it.
Yeah, and it's like it's not
what you said to me upset me, and you shouldn't be saying things like, "Well, take a step back."
It's not my problem what other people say. It's my problem how I deal with it.
Yeah.
How I respond. How are you going to react? How are you going to respond?
Right there.
Yeah.
And right there.
So many fucking mirrors in this room.
The double affirmation.
Yeah.
You have that one up in 2 spots.
No, I mean, but it's true, man. And it's hard to have these conversations sometimes and to work through it and figure it out. And I don't think it's ever like you got to trust your intuition, but I think that one of the things I've gotten comfortable with is like not knowing if it's the right choice in the moment, but just knowing that this is what, and I'm not going to get any better at listening to my gut if I suppress that and put that down.
It's the old Chinese story about the parable about the old man and his son with the horses.
Oh, is it a good or a bad thing?
Yeah. It's a good or a bad thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, man.
You can't be the judge of it, but if that's what feels right in the moment, then you should probably do that and continue just doing those things and let somebody else be the judge and you just be there for it. You know?
Yeah, it's like being the silent observer of your life and saying that like today I might really want to label this thing as bad, but it's the same as black and white, you know. Yeah. That like it has to be this or that, good or bad, you know?
Yeah. We're getting you there. You're starting to think more paradoxically.
Yeah. What you said to me in the car here meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Once you read that, that'll open you up to now I can throw some Alan Watts at you. Really make you think.
And that's
I'm
great.
about to start another one.
Yeah.
The Wisdom of Insecurity, yeah.
When I saw that out, I was like, I thought you were giving me that one. And I was like,
I gotta break it because
to
understand the Tao, like to even understand what he's talking about, you should understand the book that he's speaking to and the way of living he's referring to.
And that's an easy read. Yeah. Not an easy read. Yeah, we'll bring that back full circle.
Yeah, like I said, I would read like a verse out of that every day. Maybe start at the beginning and then just like maybe you like to write, so maybe write about how it makes you feel or what your summary of that would be.
Should we do one more random to close out the episode?
Yeah.
All right. This is verse 60. Ruling a large country is like cooking a small fish. When you govern people with the Tao, demons will have no power. Not that they don't have power, but their power will not harm people. Since the sage doesn't harm people, the two will not harm each other. Here their power merges and returns.
That's 58 to I think 62 are very, very like about governing a nation. but I mean there is things there to be learned, you know what I mean?
No, exactly, yeah. This reminds me of meditations.
Yes. It's going to be very much like that.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, there's also stuff about like how you should rule the whole country. Yeah. I'm just like, I can't even get a hold of myself, brother. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. That's enough for today.
Who thought we'd be here? Episode 44, the Reggie Jackson edition.
That's right.
It's October 30th right now when we're recording this. So hopefully the Yankees win tonight and we can keep going.
Yeah.
It's not looking good, though.
Yeah. Right now, we don't know the outcome of the World Series.
No.
We don't. We still don't.
When you hear this, though, you might be like, wow, Steve was probably bummed.
All that glitters and gold. I had money, been broke. I've been high, been low. I done pictured, been whole. I done prayed and been prayed on. I fell off and I stayed on. I've been playing.